Let's turn our attention to the US, where there has been another possible attempt on Donald Trump's life. 3 in 3 months. Authorities allege a man carrying a loaded handgun and fake IDs was stopped by police at a Trump rally in Coachella Valley, and he was thankfully intercepted before the former president arrived. Now, at this stage, we are still learning more details, but local police say that this probably prevented the third assassination attempt.
He approached the outside perimeter, gave all indications that he belonged there, that he was a participant that was allowed to get into VIP and to and a press corps, and so he was allowed through that outer perimeter. As he got to the inside perimeter, where deputies were conducting obviously a more thorough evaluation of the vehicles that were coming in, there were many irregularities that popped up.
It comes just one day after Trump's campaign requested additional security measures similar to what a sitting president would receive because of the increase in threats against him. And just a week after Melania Trump opened up about how she genuinely fears for her husband's safety.
I think, when they call him he's a threat to democracy, let's ask ourselves, who is really a threat to democracy? They are ongoing with the lawfare against the former president. As well as, trying to get him off the voting ballots and trying to, silence him. So, yes, of course, I was always afraid what can happen, and that they continuing with that kind of language is just, it's a toxic.
We are just 3 weeks away from Election Day and early voting is underway. And as we get closer to the finish line, it's clear that Donald Trump is gaining support and Kamala Harris, well, her popularity is declining. Let's look at the latest NBC News poll. It has Donald Trump and Kamala Harris both receiving 48% support from registered voters, and 4% say that they're undecided. This latest poll is certainly enough to have the Harris campaign very nervous. September's NBC News poll had Harris leading Trump by 5 points. So what's changed? Well, Kamala Harris has done a media blitz, and it appears the more that people have been able to see of her, they're going, oh, actually, no thank you. No thanks. As we know, Kamala Harris was hiding from the media, but suddenly the VP found time to go on a 40-minute podcast, Call Her Daddy, which is known for sex conversations. And she recorded that podcast while residents in the southeast were cleaning up after Hurricane Helene, which was one of the deadliest storms in US history. And the Vice President has been slammed for this. But that's not all. CBS News 60 Minutes is facing more pressure to release the transcript of Bill Whitaker's interview with the Vice President after it aired an edited clip which made her sound a lot better than she really was.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
The editor of the Free Press posted to social media, 60 Minutes should release the unedited transcript of the Kamala Harris interview. The Free Press also published an editorial over the weekend which said, given the stakes here, a rare interview with a presidential candidate a month before a very close election, you would think CBS would do the same, but no transcript has been forthcoming. The New York Post editorial board also demanded 60 Minutes release the full transcript of the interview. The editors wrote, with even the Harris-Walz campaign disavowing CBS's hack editing job of Bill Whitaker's interview with the Democratic nominee, the network's only hope of regaining any credibility is to release the full transcript. Last week, independent journalist Brittany Hopper joined Power Hour to discuss Kamala Harris's failed media blitz and the former First Lady's comments about her husband's safety.
So last week I did Laura Trump's podcast. Obviously, Laura is Trump's daughter-in-law, and we discussed this. And I said, someone should be eating the food before Trump is actually eating his food, because that's how bad it has gotten. I mean, it's very frightening that there's this possibility of silencing him, because I do believe what Melania said is that he's a threat to democracy. And so by silencing him, God forbid, they're trying to actually kill him. And there's people who are actually trying to do this to him. And it's horrible. It's frightening. I'm sure for his family members to explain to his grandchildren, Melania's son. It's this entire family just must be living on the edge of their seats. And mind you, Trump doesn't need to be doing this.
Absolutely.
He doesn't need to do this. So clearly he's doing this. His life is literally on the line here. And so clearly he's doing this for the goodness of America, for our country. And so, it's frightening how they do some people want to silence democracy. That he thinks that he is a threat to democracy, and they want to silence him by killing him.
I tell you what, it was incredible to see him back in Butler, Pennsylvania. He is brave, whether you like his politics or not. He's absolutely fearless. And, I think a lot of credit needs to go to his family who are supporting him while he's been faced with these attempts on his life. Now, Kamala Harris has finally decided to do media interviews, and she decided to go on the podcast Call Her Daddy, where the host Alex Cooper claimed that it would all be about women's issues. Now, the majority of that podcast, I listened to the whole thing, was about abortion, and as if that is the only issue facing American women. No mention about other issues that affect women, like keeping men out of women's sport or the secure border. No mention as well about Trump's policy about making IVF free for all women. What did you make of the podcast and what Kamala Harris had to say?
So look, I think that it reached 5 million people. And then I think she went on Howard Stern's show after that, and it reached 10 million people. I got to say, I think that this is smart by her campaign, by her people doing this. They withheld her from doing so many interviews and press conferences for so long. I think this was all strategically done on purpose. And now, a month before our elections, they're just going hard and hitting it where I think that they know they're going to get the votes. Like you mentioned, this is predominantly female listeners. And, I thought that the host was very soft on Kamala.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. As you mentioned, where were the questions about, transgender and boys in sports and all of those issues that we're discussing, IVF with Trump, everything that you just mentioned, where were those questions to her? But again, at the same time, I do think that it's very good PR for her going on these types of shows right now, and she's doing it. She went on The View. She's getting millions of viewers right now. And,
yeah. But you know what? I think that might be doing her no favors. We're so close to the campaign. I think this is the point where people see a little bit more of her and they go, actually, I changed my mind. But here is Kamala Harris when she was pressed on one of the top issues for voters in America, which is the border.
Was it a mistake to kind of allow that flood to happen in the first place?
I think the policies that we have been proposing are about fixing a problem, not promoting a problem. Okay?
But the numbers did quadruple.
And the numbers today, because of what we have done, we have cut the flow of illegal immigration by half.
But should you
we
have
have
done
cut
that?
the
Should you
flow
have
of
done that?
fentanyl by half, but we need Congress to be able to act to actually fix the problem.
Okay, so Brittany, we finally have Kamala Harris giving these interviews. When people look at how she handles those questions, what do you think? Are they going to buy it?
So the Call Her Daddy or whatever, those other ones, The View, I think was in her favor. This, I'm quite surprised by Bill, the journalist, who kind of pushed back. I mean, look, is journalism coming back to life? Real journalism here? Because he actually pushed back and asked some tough questions. And I thought she did horribly in this interview. There were a lot of, there is a likability about her that I can understand. I mean, I'm not obviously for her policies and values. They don't align with what I believe in, but I can understand the likability. But this particular interview, I'm sorry, it was not strong. It was not leader material for the United States of America, in my opinion. And I am proud of Bill, the journalist, who really did push back and ask some tough questions. Because as we've seen, even during, just these past interviews, they've been so soft with Kamala.
Yeah.
or even the debates, the VP debates and the presidential debate. It's been so soft. It's been 3-on-1. So I don't think that this particular 60 minutes interview did her any favors. I think that if anything, hopefully those independent voters who are undecided will perhaps not lean toward her after this interview.
Well, here's another clip from that interview being pressed about gun ownership.
You recently surprised people when you said that you are a gun owner. And then if someone came into your house...
That was not the first time I've talked about it. That's not the first time I've talked about it.
So what kind of gun do you own, and when and why did you get it?
I have a Glock, and I've had it for quite some time. And I mean, look, Bill, my background is in law enforcement. And so there you go.
Have you ever fired it?
Yes. Of course I have. At a shooting range. Yes, of course I have.
Oh, Brittany, she looks so awkward, so uncomfortable, and it's probably because she normally tweaks her answers or puts on a different accent depending on who she's talking to. But as you say, I don't think she did very well in that interview either.
Well, and I mean, the whole Glock thing, and she has a gun, and her background is in law enforcement. You know, I was born and raised in California. One of the reasons why we're in Florida is because of the situations, the politicians that have ruined California. And she was part of that in San Francisco. So let's not forget. Soft on crime, soft on criminals, where criminals are treated as victims. So I didn't really understand and buy the whole, now she has a Glock and she uses it at gun range. It was very weird, but this is what we've seen, right? Time and time again. We know that her values and her policies are super far left liberal, but she's trying to appease to this like middle ground centrist type folks, which we know that that's not true because her past doesn't say that. So I just think it's very hypocritical. And the other thing I want to make a point too is that I read, and I haven't confirmed this, but I also heard that CBS, the way that they edited it for air, they took out a lot of her word salad stuff that she.
Yeah, no, that has been confirmed. That we played that earlier. We had the original clip, the edited clip, and he watched that, and it just. And I said this before, but you wonder why people don't trust the media. They don't trust leaders anymore. It's I don't know why they did it. We would never do that in Australia. One of the best things we have about Sky News Australia is we take things live. So politicians, they have nowhere to hide. Our cameras are on them for hours if they end up speaking for that long, and sometimes they do. And you catch everything.
And it should be that way in America because we technically are supposed to have a free press, and things are being censored, things are being manipulated, things are being twisted and turned, and the American people are not getting the truth. And this is part of the problem. And I've said this over and over again as I've been a TV journalist for 18 years, and most of that time was on mainstream media. The biggest threat we have in America right now is the media. So I applaud Sky News. I applaud you as a journalist for keeping it truthful. For telling both sides of the story, because that's what journalism needs to get back to. The people around the world need to do that. This isn't China.